Hey y'all, this is podcast 4.2 B into C, so we're going to look at that today. Just a heads up there.
You are. You still follow me. I think I subscribed. Yeah, kind of. I did.
Like there'd be examples that are slotted out my case because I don't ever check that. You know, I should do it for y'all. So if there's someone's like, "You're saving my life for me, stats. Thank you so much." I just don't know who it was.
You're a lifesaver. One of your students. You're a lifesaver.
That deserves a ticket.
Yes.
No, I really don't.
All right, hey, again, get this down as we go through it. Let's give out some tickets for some stuff. Let's make sure we're all squared away, and just to make sure again all the details are good to go. Hey, before we do, bless you. Yeah.
What does it mean to keep all variables besides the treatment constant? Like how? Why don't you treat it?
Where are you seeing this from? I'm sorry.
Number 3 on the keys to experience. Why don't you keep the treatment constant?
Yeah, we'll talk over that. Is that cool?
Yeah.
We'll talk over that in just a second because some of this stuff we'll just go through the red, and then the blue's a little different. Just want to make sure we hit on a couple things with that. Okay. Hey, before we get into questions, I know some of you may have some other questions, and we'll address it. Yesterday rocked. Y'all were awesome. I know it was at the end of the day on Monday. But the questions that y'all had were great. Keep that up, and we'll keep the engagement level high. A couple things for this week. On Wednesday and Thursday, there is, for y'all it'll be Thursday, there's a quiz on Thursday. You got to know there's only 2 problems on the quiz, no multiple choice, okay? There literally is it. This is it. 2 FRQs. I'm telling you what it is first so you kind of know and understand. One of them is an experimental study. You just need to explain how you would attack that, okay? And then the second one is using Table D, very similar to your quiz, to be able to do the observational study, okay? If you remind me, maybe towards the end of today, I'll hand back the quizzes, and that way you can kind of check those out there, okay? Sound good? Diego?
Did they get one of those sheets?
Yes, I've got one right over here. Here you go. All right, so let's do this. Let's go over the stuff in red, and just, if you could give me an example of each, just as a kind of a review here. So let's go over control group. What is a control group? You just raise your hand. Lindsay, you got something? Yeah, it's the group that doesn't receive treatment. Nice. Yeah. Could someone give me an example of a blind experiment? John Michael?
When players on a team don't know if they're getting Gatorade or a Gatorade-like tasting looking, but it's not Gatorade.
Correct. Yeah, it's something where they don't know what they're getting, right? They don't know what. Could someone tweak that, what John Michael said, to make a double-blind Jaden?
When the person administering the test also doesn't know which one is the placebo versus the actual one.
Yeah, exactly. Where the person administering it and also the experimental units do not know. I will give 4 tickets if someone can remember what we call experimental units that are human. If you could raise your hand, we'll get to that. Experimental units that are human, we call what? What would we call it?
Subjects.
Subjects, right? We'll go 2 and 2 because y'all share, okay? Although you did give me looks, so we almost did before, but we'll go there. All right, placebo effect. Now, this is a little off on how I wrote this. This should say placebo effect. What is the placebo effect? It's a little different than actual placebo. Catherine? You good there? Yeah, bro, come on.
It's when you think that what you're doing is working, but just because you're thinking that it's working, then it'll work.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really your mind, right? Playing kind of games on you a little bit. What is an actual placebo? It's an actual placebo. Catherine, you got this one?
Yeah, it's like a fake thing, but like it looks like real ones, so that the subjects won't know they're fake.
Yeah, there's 2 kind of terms here that go together. Does anyone know what goes with placebo? Anytime I have a placebo, it goes with it. I don't want to say every time because I'm sure there's an instance where it doesn't. But a lot of times they go together. John Michael?
Blind test.
Yeah, blind and placebo kind of go hand in hand a lot of times. Maybe not every time, but a lot of times. All right, experiments, 4 different things. Let's talk about it. Number 1, we got to compare, right? Could someone just tell me, like, what are we comparing? Chris, do you know what we're comparing in an experiment? Yeah, it could be 2 treatments. What else could it be? Could it be more than 2? Yeah, absolutely. Could it be also a treatment and what's the second one? A control group, right? Something that I'm just chilling back, I'm just watching, and I'm just seeing here. Cool. Number 2, we use a chance process to assign treatments, right? We randomly assign. We remember this because I think Chris brought up some good points about random assignment. How in a random assignment, we do what with random assignment? What does it control? Confounding variables. Good. And because of that, thanks, Michael's got you, by the way. He's helping me out there. Because of that, it's controlling confounding variables. Nice. Number 3, control. It keeps all variables besides treatments constant. Shane, you were asking about this. Could someone explain that real quick? What does that even mean in an experiment? Why is number 3 so important? Good. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Brian.
So you have a basis for comparison. Is that what you're asking? Like, why do we have a control?
Yeah, so why is it important, like in my Gatorade thing, that the only thing that is different is from group 1 to group 2 is the actual treatment that's administered?
So you can,
Why?
So you can make a comparison?
Good, and we can show what? The experiments we can show. John Michael.
Oh, cause and effect.
Cause and effect. Nicely done, and that's how we roll. Okay. Good. Okay, so this is where we've headed. This is where we are. Okay. Now here's the one thing that you've got to be careful on. All right. This is like you got to really focus in. If there is one thing to really focus in on, this is it. There are 2 worlds, right? There are 2 worlds. One observational, one experimental. You cannot use words between each. Does that make sense? So if I say stratified, what world does it go in? Observational, right? In fact, you see the cloud up there? The beautiful cloud? I got some new markers, so if y'all want to... What's that? Yeah? Are you going to...
Did you just say, how did you get up there?
Oh, that's messed up.
I'll know.
Yeah, did I give you any tickets yet?
That's negative ticket.
It's negative tickets, that's right. Is that possible? We should have black tickets where we put them in there and then it just takes out the tickets that you were already there. We should do that.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, forget it. I'm not helping. All right, I'm not helping. No, but when we look at the cloud is based on observational, right? And when we look at this, where we actually have this random assignment here, okay? This right here would be experimental. Y'all follow me on this? Y'all cool on this? Experimental, the cloud over there, stratified cluster, taking good samples of my population. That over there would be more observational. Salty right now.
I've been telling you to be on the first one. I'm trying to tell you.
I don't know about that. Not that far. But it's closer. It's closer. All right, so here's what I want to do here. This is something I want you just to take this part in, okay? There's 3 other kind of terms that I want to talk through. Really only 2 terms that I want to talk through, and then we'll go from there. Sometimes we have multiple things that we're trying to control, right? In the context of Gatorade, the only thing we controlled was Gatorade itself, right? But in the caffeine illustration, let's say that the fact that someone got caffeine and the temperature of the drink actually impacted the heart rate that increased, okay? So let's talk about that. So what we did is we had 120. We randomly assigned into 6 groups, each with how many? 20, right? That makes sense because it's even. We then, once we did that, gave them a treatment at random. Got me? Right? Whatever group it was. Group 1 got yes caffeine at 30 degrees, right? Group 2 got yes at 50 degrees, and so on and so forth, okay? So here's a question. Yeah, Jaden, you got something?
Do you also have to make sure that all of them get like the same amount, or does?
I would make sure I controlled everything, and that comes back to what you were talking about, Shane. Number 3, we want to control everything that we possibly can other than the specific thing itself, right? So each of these would get the same amount. The only difference is for this, right, would be, yes, they would get caffeine, and this group would get 30-degree drink-ish, right? But as far as the amount, it's got to be the same, right? We want to control those other factors. Cool. So how many treatment groups do we have? We have 6, right? Good, Alex. And in those groups, here's where we got to look at this. Is this going to be blind? Let me get some tickets here. Is this going to be blind, yes or no, and why?
No, it will not be blind. Or it
What?
will be partially blind.
Why do you say that, Alex?
They will definitely know the temperature of the drink because they can tell, but they won't necessarily know that it's caffeine.
Yeah, I think I can tell what one stayed in my car for a long time, you know what I mean? Compared to one that's like ice cold, you know, like on the ice, ready to go, right? A little different. But as far as the yes and no of caffeine, that's what they would be blind to, probably. You know what I mean? Depending on how we attack the study. Is there a placebo?
Yes.
Kind of, right? What's the placebo?
The nose.
The no and yes, right? So that would definitely be different. That's be a little bit different there. Okay, so we've done these two. These two right here, factors and levels, are just a little tricky. This is where you got to really kind of tune in. The question that I have, a factor is something, it's a variable that we're controlling, okay? It's a variable we're controlling. How many things are we controlling here? 2. Good. Who said that, Alex? Good. Could someone else tell me what 2 we're controlling? John Michael, you got something?
Temperature of the drink and whether it's caffeine.
Good. So the 2 factors, the variables that we're controlling, bless you, are the 2 that are in blue, temperature and caffeine. Y'all Gucci on that? Okay? Those are the 2 things we're controlling. In the Gatorade illustration, how many factors did we control? I know it's not up here, but remembering that, how many factors did we control? Shane? Just 1, yeah. That was it, right? So because of this, traditionally it's probably 1. In this case, it's actually 2, temperature and caffeine. Now, here's the kicker. The factors and the levels are different. In each factor, you have different levels within each factor. Am I making sense on that?
Yeah.
Okay? So in the temperature, you have 3 different levels in one factor. You got me? 30, 50, and 70. With caffeine, you have 2 levels in one factor, yes or no. Got me? And that's how we would do it. I've pretty much seen on every AP exam a question that gives you a little bit of an experiment and analyzes it and then says how many factors and how many levels are there. So just know that what you're controlling right here is the caffeine and temperature, that's 2, and how many levels are at each is very important. Cool? Questions on this? Cool. I want you to kind of get just a quick rep in regarding the right side for Thursday. So here's what I want y'all to do. Go on to the next section here. We're going to skip this because I don't feel, we'll skip that. Yeah. Okay, do this. Before you do that, you see the check your understanding? Just star that and go back and look at that for the quiz, okay? Just something good. You don't have to do it, but if you're looking for a quick rep or practice, it'd be good to look at before the quiz, okay? All right, here's what I want you to do. On number 1, I want you to come up with a completely randomized design for number 1 on section 4.2C. 4.2C, I'm going to give you 4 minutes. I want you to draw a diagram with this, okay? Draw a diagram. And then also with your partner next to you, actually take turns explaining how you would write down the analysis there. Cool? Because how much credit would you get if you just put this?
0.
0, unfortunately, right? So you got to be able to also explain this. Cool? All right, if you're Jaden or Brianna, definitely 0. Okay? All right? Definitely 0. All right, go to number 1. Outline a completely randomized design. Go ahead. Let's do it.
Jaden will get 0.
After your last comment,
I'm
the
sorry.
council
Yeah,
is
you're
going to
new.
which
I'll
teachers
test
they
you.
think you hired as a teacher. So they have allowed to sit up.
Okay, I think you're really tall and positive.
Okay, now she's just lying. 'Cause
Appreciate
that's
that.
Whoa.
No, wait.
Press that mic on right now.
Look at her.
Should I do this?
That's what we got.
So really, who did that?
Wait,
Brianna's just a little bit, her mark's a little higher than Jaden right now. Right now.
wait, he has a question.
Yeah, Michael.
No, really, who did draw that?
That was me. Oh.
Okay, now put him on top.
For asking for a- Oh, yeah.
Did you stand on that, like, seriously? Did you stand?
Did it on Shane's desk over there.
I wish someone.
I'm sorry.
That's
saying
good.
that.
Yes, you may.
I have to write it down, but I have that.
You know what's funny is you're actually 2 steps ahead of me. Or 1 step ahead of where we're going. Why'd you do this? Good. Good. So you're gonna see me. You'll see me in a second. I'm not gonna do it this way for the first one, and I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna come back to y'all's group, and y'all are gonna tell me why. Cool. Because you're right. You're exactly right. You're like two steps ahead, which is perfect. All right, completely randomized design. Y'all ready? No. How do y'all feel to do this on Thursday? Okay.
This one's done for me.
I don't want to speak on behalf of any.
I was looking at you because you're. Okay, as we go through this, let's just talk through the diagram. Here we go. What do we start with?
50 students.
50 students. Now, this is important. This is important. We're going to go to another one in a second. It's a little bit different, okay? This is called what? This is important. A completely randomized design. You got to understand that. Completely randomized design. Brown, you got something?
So would juniors and seniors go into play? Like,
How many of you divided juniors and seniors up?
what do you mean?
Okay. All right. So we gotta be careful because you're with Shane and Chris over here. Two steps ahead of me. Okay. Completely randomized design means we take everyone, all 50, right? And this is the one we've kind of already done, where we random assign, right? All right. That's how I'm gonna write it now, because y'all judge me. And then we're gonna go to group 1 and group 2, which each would have how many?
25.
25 in each, right? Good. We then would do what with group 1?
It'll be online.
Give them online.
Yeah, let's go treatment 1. T1 is what I'll put, but we'll say that that's online, which is good. Just kind of put that down. And then treatment 2 would end up being what?
Class.
Yeah, this is the classroom, okay? Good. What do we do at the end?
Comparison.
Okay, this is important too. You got to tell me what you're actually comparing.
SAT score.
SAT scores, that's my response, right? And what's the explanatory? Where's my phone here?
The class.
I hate that alarm.
The score
Is it the class?
Say it again, Sarah.
with the explanatory, the score is like how many points they, like how much better they do.
Yeah, so I would say that that's my response. Like that's what happens as a result. What explains that?
Of the in-class experience.
Good, or the online experience, right? Whatever one would be the group that they were in. Great job. So that would be the model, okay? Could someone real quick, because again, this gets me no credit, but it allows me to kind of talk through it. Could someone, I'll give 4 tickets out. If you can just talk me through what you would say once I analyze and put this down. Cool? Let's do this. Catherine, you want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. Can
Try.
I So take the 50 students as an example, as a sample.
Perfect.
And then random assign them to group 1 and group 2, each contain 25 students.
I like that. Good.
And assign group 1 to take online classes and group 2 to take in-classroom classes.
Great.
And then after they finish their SAT, compare the SAT scores of the 2 times, like the 2 classes.
Excellent. I love how you said that. Was there anything that you heard that Catherine said that maybe you could include or we could include in that? Jaden?
She didn't say what kind of like procedure it was, right? Like, she didn't say whether it was an observational or an experimental.
I like that. And not necessarily experimental because we're assuming that. You don't have to kind of say it. But the fact that it is a completely randomized design, I would state that. Good. And Catherine, you did rocked it. We're just improving the answer, which you already rocked. You did a good job. Chris, you had something else too, and I heard you.
Yeah, I said she could add more context to that.
Just a little context at the beginning, kind of oomps it up a little bit, gets a little spiced up, and here you go. Okay? Good. Sydney, did you, hold up. I'm sorry, Lindsay. I'm sorry, I was totally off. Lindsay.
She didn't specify that each group would have a certain amount of students.
Yeah, I like this. And this is where we came to. Shane and Chris, could you help me out? Because you actually were bringing it up to me. You didn't actually do it this way. What did you do?
We split up juniors and seniors, and then randomly assigned a junior school group and online group, and a senior school group and online group.
Yeah, I like that. So basically what they did was they said juniors and seniors are there, okay? We set them in place, and then all of a sudden now we randomly assign. Why is it important that maybe we divide up juniors and seniors rather than just put them as a lump sum like we did here? Rihanna?
Because of the level of math and reading that they do is higher for like seniors than juniors.
Yeah, Chris, do you remember when I said you're not quite there in the understanding of like where we're headed? Now you are. Because in this instance of what you had brought up is, well, what if you were talking about the Gatorade instance of some people might just be stronger than others? It's a great point. So what we do is on this second one, we come here. I'll explain that later because we'll talk about that. All right, we'll go to the second one, and you'll notice that what we'll do is we'll start with 50, and we do what at the beginning? We split up juniors and seniors, or we split up those that are physically able with the Gatorade illustration, maybe those that are not, okay, and whatever we divided that by. Okay, does that make sense? Cool?
Do you have to put the factors in this too? Like, did you say that? Or no?
That's a good question. We'll talk over that here in a second here. Cool? That's a good question.
Yeah, I have a question. So since number one says completely randomized design, does it mean like we don't need to, like we're not allowed to split the juniors and seniors?
Correct. You know what we call that when we do split them up? We call this a randomized. This is number 2. Randomized block design. Still random. The only difference now is we're going to block this. Okay? And what is the block again?
Grade level?
Grade level. Great, Sarah. Good. It's the grade level. Chris, you got something? I thought you were going to be deep there for a second. Did someone leave?
Yeah.
Oh, Diego. Sorry. I thought someone just left the class. I'd forgotten he was in here. So yeah, Chris, you're good. All right, so let's do a randomized block design. So with 50, what did we divide it up to? 30 and 20. Let's do it. Okay, so what goes with the seniors? How many seniors are in here? 20. And juniors is 30. Good. Now, to Sarah's point, is this something that we randomized right here? Yeah, we have not randomized, have we? So what have we done? What we've done here is we've blocked right here. Okay? Ron, you with us?
Yeah.
Cool. We blocked here. Okay? So then what do we do once we blocked? Literally, it's like 2 experiments going on now. Okay? So now what we got is we do what here?
Split again.
You randomly assign.
There you are, randomly assigned. So we're literally starting over again. Okay? So this would be random assign. Good. This is random assign. I see a lot of the ASS thing on y'all's papers.
Yeah.
I saw it on Shane's. I saw it on. I know I saw it on yours. Go there. This is still good.
It's too hard to write.
I know it's easier with that, right? Be good. I can't wait to be observed, and then all of a sudden, like, Coach Woodward comes walking in, and we got him all over. It's good. This is good stuff. Random assignment to what groups? What groups are there?
Online or
Yep, online or in person. So we have online, or we have class. We have online, or we have class. Good. Nice. Okay. After we do this, what do we give it? Oh, I actually messed up a little bit. Because normally I go to group 2, and then I go to treatment, don't I? I kind of messed that up. I should have done group 2, arrow, classroom, give it the treatment, right? It's not necessary, but if you know what that means, then you're good. You're Gucci there.
Coach,
Okay.
do we have to state how many people are in the group?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. So what would be in each? 15 here? And 10 here, right?
And on that note,
Cool. All right, what do we do at the end here?
Compare all.
Asking for
Ooh, yeah, all right, stay with us now. What would we compare? This is huge.
You Are the juniors online in class and the seniors online?
Yeah, because the juniors and seniors, do they have the same response? We don't know, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to compare SAT here and compare SAT here. Right? All right, how do y'all feel on that?
I just want to know the results.
Do you know the results?
Yes.
Unfortunately, within this unit, there's not a whole lot of results. It's just setting it up. Okay? No, it's not really like as exciting. The second semester, what's cool about this is some of you will be conducting things like this. So you're going to be conducting your own experiment second semester, and once you attack second semester with whatever your project is, you're going to be able to use cause and effect for whatever you want to find in whatever you're interested in. Did I talk to y'all about my specialist degree? I think it was y'all that I talked about, right?
No.
Oh, I didn't. So I actually did that for a whole year. I came up with a project that was like all of my classes was combined to this like 80-page paper, and my question was: does collaboration improve
You did tell us.
improvement? I think did that? Yeah. So very similar. This is where a lot of this comes from, is just setting it up. Brianna, you got something?
So we would never, I'm probably behind, but like we would never compare the seniors and the juniors. Like, we would never.
I'm not saying I would never, but I would definitely take it with a grain of salt and just say it could be different, or it will be different more than likely, because
that's what
seniors
the
may
blog
look at it differently than juniors. Again?
That's what the blog is saying. Like, it's just like
Correct. Yeah, that's why we block it. It's because we've got almost too many experiments that are going on.
Okay.
To Chris's point, because of what we talked about yesterday, different groups of people may take it differently, right? And so we want to make sure we block it before we actually go after the random assignment.
Did these kids know they were being experimented on?
My kids,
Yeah.
yes, they had to sign waivers.
Yeah, don't you have to go?
It's totally random.
So like,
I mean, totally anonymous. I don't ever put anybody's name on there, but yeah, it definitely was.
so like purposely some learned different than others. Like some got more from.
No, they got the same information, but it was just different in the way that it was approached. I think for my study, to make it fair, was I did all of my classes on one unit. I did a pre-test, post-test. One unit, I did direct teaching. The second unit, I did more collaborative, hands-on learning. And then I just did a pre-test, post-test with all my students.
Was this at
And
GAC?
is that GAC? It's like 3 years ago. Yeah. It's pretty good. Yeah, Jacqueline.
Oh, I just had a question on this format. Like, do
Please
we
go.
have to write it like that?
It's a great question. Yeah, I want you to know this. You do not have to write it like this. If you are better with words, go straight to it. Does that make sense? Go straight to
Because
it.
I just like kind of listed the seniors and the juniors like as bullet points in the group.
That's fine. As long as whatever helps you to be able to write about it. All right? Does that make sense? Cool, cool. All right, one more. Here we go. Now, hey, the last thing. All right, stay with me now. The last thing, so last one before we kind of go to our golden nugget and finish off today. Sometimes within this, it may not be the best to just block something. It might be better to kind of pair people together, okay? So if we think about this, what's another factor that could impact achievement on an SAT other than just grade?
Grade point
Temperature.
average.
Temperature in the room could be?
Time.
Time?
If they get extended time.
Chris, did you say something? Sleep, it could be? Michael, did you say?
Like comfortability.
Like how comfortable you are?
Breakfast in the morning.
Breakfast in the morning?
Like the people in the room might be super
This is true.
Yeah, like when they're coughing every like 3 minutes.
This is true. So you can't control all of those, okay? All right, right up here. All right, stay up here with me. Okay? What about GPA? GPA,
To some
right?
extent, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not just you think that's it. It's an
That's a good fact.
All right, GPA. True.
Oh,
I don't think
What's
you
it
gotta
She
be
told me I have a dumb vocabulary.
Oh my word. Yeah, no, we're not going to go there. This is getting too intense. Okay. All right, so this part right here, we do have to focus in. This is last year on chapter 4 here. Was the toughest part. All right, Shane, here we go. Was the toughest thing in chapter 4 that people struggled with on this unit, okay? So really hone in. Just number 3. Right? Number 3. This is called, and I'm not going to do as many questions here, just because I want to make sure it's really crystal clear. Okay? This is called matched pairs. Okay? Matched pairs, and I'm going to go straight to the golden nugget, is something where it has a block of size 2. Blocks of size 2. You'll notice I will not do a diagram here because we'd be going crazy. It'd be all over the place. So we're just going to do a block of size 2, and we're going to use a matched pairs here. So instead, here's what we're going to do. The counselor is now worried students' GPA is certainly going to affect their SAT score. So we're going to look at the 30 juniors just for this section here. 30 juniors, and we're going to see what we can do to find the matched pairs design, or do a matched pairs design for their SAT scores within this study. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them from high to low on the GPA scale, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to group the top 2 together, then the next 2 together, the next 2 together, and the next 2 together, okay? So I'm going to write just real quick about this. So we're going to order all students. I'm actually going to analyze this and put this down in words right now. Order all students based on their what? Yeah, good. Based on their GPA. And then, in group 1, I will randomly assign. Group 1, I will randomly assign what? One person. Close, Shane. You're close because it's paired, right? So if I have 2 people here, I'll randomly assign one to what? Treatment 1, whatever the group 1 or whatever it may be, and the second one goes into group 2. Good. Do I just pick them, or do I have to randomly assign those? I have to randomly assign. So I will randomly assign one to get what treatment? To get the classroom or treatment 1, right? The classroom treatment. And the second will get what? Yep, well, the second gets, or receives, that's probably a better word, receives the online treatment, okay? What will I do for all 30? What will happen? When I repeat this, how many times would I have to repeat this?
15.
It'd be 15 total, right? So I would repeat this process for the next 2 highest students, and then so on and so forth. So if you want to just put that down, so I would repeat the process for all students. I want to make sure I said that right. All students within the junior class, right? Or that I'm sampling for all 30 students. Okay? All right. Does that make sense?
So do
Cool.
they-
So what?
Michael, then I'll get Sarah.
What are we comparing in the end? Student 1 and 2, or all the students?
We're doing all the students. So we have 2 groups. The way that we put them into the 2 groups is just different. So instead of 15 random here, 15 random here, we're saying we're going to order them based on GPA, those 30. The top 2 juniors, we're going to randomly assign one to one group, one to the other. Maybe it's flip a coin.